Welcome to the PT Marketing Power Hour, highlighting successful marketing strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. We have another great episode today, so don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, here's your host, physical therapist, marketing expert, and CEO of Practice Promotions, Neil Trickett.
Hey everybody, Neil Trickett here, CEO of Practice Promotions. And if you are struggling with cancellations from patients, especially this time of year in this environment, then you're going to want to listen up here. We've got some great tips and advice for you here. I'm here with Dee Bills. She is the front office guru and a fantastic consultant to PT practices and rehabilitation practices all across the US and Canada. She helps practices with their cancellation rate. She has some great tips and advice. So welcome, Dee. Great to have you here.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks so much. I really am excited to be here and share some tips on how to handle cancellations around the holidays and into the new year.
Yeah, a lot of our clients, our account managers are working with them. And, obviously from being in practice ourselves, we definitely know this is a tough time of year around the holidays for cancellations. People are very busy. They got lots of things going on. But there are a lot of things that can be done across the front desk to control that a little bit better, right? And we are hearing things from our clients on that. Obviously this is a very unique time with COVID and fear and things that uncertainty and things like that that are going on. So again, it's like, how can you help your front office team to be better informed and control and work with the patients to get the optimum result for the patient? So, Dee, could you give us a little bit of background on kind of your expertise and why you're so good in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a physical therapist. I was a physical therapist for over 20 years before my husband asked me to help him out in our private practice. And I switched from being a physical therapist to focusing mostly on administration. When I walked in the door, the arrival rate in our clinic was about 75%, which meant that our cancellations per day were about 25%, which was really hurting us and causing me a lot of frustration, the physical therapist in me. And I realized that my front desk was just really struggling and they didn't have the skills and the tools to handle people and their objections, to easily and quickly come up with that script that handled, say, a cancellation or a way of saying it where we didn't induce a fight or an upset with the patient. And so I started working with my team, and within 6 months, we got our arrival rate above 92%. And over the last 9 years, we've had our arrival rate sit at about 95% or above on a consistent basis. And that's with me no longer being in the practice, because about 4 years ago, I told Mike that I was like, well, I've been helping a lot of people on the side. I really missed the helping part of it, not being in PT anymore. And he was like, okay, you're fired, jokingly, go do this. And he just really gave me the kick that I needed to take that leap. And it was scary, but I started working with private practices about 4 years ago across the US and Canada. And a big focus on what I do, one of my big programs really focuses on schedule control and really mastering those same day cancellations so they stop being a problem in a practice.
Yeah, that's such a huge thing and it affects so many things, right? Patient outcomes, morale in the office, and ultimately finances too, right? Profitability if patients cancel all the time, right? So Dee, what are some of the cancellation challenges that you hear of, like practice owners face this time of year?
Yeah. It's funny. It's kind of the same thing we hear all year round. It just seems like we all feel it more around the holidays, but it's really time. Time is a big one. There's that perception of busyness that occurs between Thanksgiving and into the new year, where people start feeling like there's so much more to do. And I'm not saying there's not, by all means, but it really starts to encroach down into them. And so that's where you get those increase in same day cancellations, the difficulty scheduling your patients.
I remember in practice, it's usually the patients that are on the mend, right? They're starting to do better.
Yeah.
They don't feel as much pain anymore. And they're like, do I
Mhm.
really need to go to therapy, or can I go
Yeah.
shopping, or I've got a family coming over
Yeah.
for dinner or something like that. So I'm sure you probably hear that
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But now, right, in 2020, we definitely have a compounding effect, right? And so
Mhm.
there was a spike in cases of COVID, and obviously there's a lot of news flying around too.
Mhm.
So what are some of the things that you're hearing from practice owners when it comes to things that they're seeing with this, and fear from patients?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that go with that, right? First of all, you have that perception of busyness or that stress around the holiday that people are feeling. You have people that are starting to get better. You also have people that are saying, well, I really can't come in right now because I want to quarantine so I can see my family, or the fear of, I don't want my holidays ruined by getting COVID. And
Mhm.
so, what comes to play there is, how do we handle that objection? Because, you don't want to be pushy. I always teach PCCs when I'm working with them, if your scripting is pushy, and pushy is like in any way forceful, right? Anytime you induce force into something, people push back. And so there has to be a way of handling our patients that guide them the way we want them to go, not force them to do something, but guide them. Because when you become the guide, they're more likely to follow you.
Do you kind of have an example of the way that you would force someone versus guide them? Do you have any examples of
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Very often, I always use the cancellation policy as a big part of that, right? There's a really big difference between being proactive and preventative and being reactive to something,
Hmm.
right? So, if you want an example of force, it's where we start to threaten that fee, right? So, Neil, I really hate to have to charge you that missed visit fee, or even worse, if you cancel same day, I'm going to charge you that $50 fee. You're going to have to pay it. And what happens is, it's kind of becomes a threat, and when
Hmm.
somebody threatens you, that natural response kicks in, and you as a patient start to, whoa, wait a minute, bring that on, I'll fight you, and
Hmm.
so that's usually what happens. That's a good example of a forceful situation.
And then how would you flip that then, if the person was going to guide them? What would they say?
Yeah. So it really comes down to explaining to them the benefits, right? What they need, how you're here to help them, right? It's about, like I said, it's about being preventative. So when you're explaining a policy to a patient, or you're having them go through the policy, they need to understand the purpose, the goal behind it. Why do you need a day's notice? Why do you need 24 hours notice? What do you need from that patient? And so when you put that focus on prevention
Hmm.
with the patient versus, this is what's going to happen, right? If you do this, the patient's more willing to work with you.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I think one of the things that I learned from you was how it's so important to be proactive versus reactive. And
Mhm.
if without taking COVID into consideration, and the conversations that need to occur around that,
Mhm.
if we look at just the holiday side of it, right?
Yeah.
Um, if this week your front office is prepping each patient for, like, hey, I know it's
Mhm.
crazy busy for you right now, I know you must be like trying to get last minute presents and all this kind of that, but then they say, but it's really important to help you, not fall behind on your
Mhm.
progress that
Yeah.
we schedule for next week, right? And
Yeah.
let's make sure that you get in. Can you make sure that you can attend these certain
Mhm.
sessions? So it's more of that proactive, getting ahead of the curve, rather than getting that call where, hey, I got to
Yeah.
cancel today. I'm so busy. And then they're scrambling to try to fix it,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime you have to, when I work with practices privately, and when I coach them, even my online program talks about this too, right? When you're being reactive, something bad has already happened. And now you're trying to reel things back in. You're trying to regain control of the situation, right? So if I don't script things properly and I have a problem with you as a patient, now I more likely have to discipline you, or I have to really push to get you to follow. But if I'm being proactive and I guide you where I want you to go, and I understand as the patient care coordinator what my responsibility is to you as a patient. And I lead you, okay, so this is what Neil's going to throw at me as an excuse or a reason. This is how I'm going to handle it, so that the minute you walk in the door and you're like, okay, Dee, so so life's really busy. Amy and I and the kids, we've got all these plans, and my parents are in town, and this is going on. And hey, my sister's coming over here. And it becomes this whole thing, and the front office tends to stand there. And if they don't have a really good comeback before that happens, one of two things happens. Either I push back at you because force is the only way. Like, Neil, you have to come in for therapy. You're like, well, no, I don't. Or I take a step back as a patient care coordinator, and I let you take full control, and you do whatever it is that you feel that you need to do.
Yeah.
And now there's no control. You're not getting care.
Yeah.
And you're more likely to drop off, actually. So. And
that is something that you do explain in your front office training. And Dee has an awesome system. She is if you go to frontofficeguru.com, she has an online training, and it's actually called Fix Your Front Desk Academy. Mm-hmm. So it's if you go to fixyourfrontdesk.com, you can learn a lot more about the way that she trains people through that. But you're so right in that often the front desk might feel a little bit more intimidated or feel bad for the patient. Because obviously the patient maybe they have financial constraints, maybe they have time constraints, and then they're giving away that control because they're trying to appease the patient, right? To not make them upset or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So it comes back to this matter of control. And what do they say? It's how you say it and when you say it makes such a difference on control over the front desk. And that comes down to training, right? It comes down to making sure your front office is well trained on what to say and how to say it and at the right time, and that aspect of control.
Yeah, when your front office is really trained and they're trained really well, not only do they feel like they're thriving, but your practice feels like it's thriving, because remember, they're the first and last point of contact for every patient. If I'm going to bail on you and cancel out of care, that's that last point of contact, right? Mm-hmm. Or the last point of contact is a fully successful completed patient that's being discharged. But the first point of contact matters as well, and everything in between, all those contacts and how I handle you. A big thing I'm really trying to change the mindset that's out there. The words front desk used to describe a person, right? Or front office rep to describe a person. What does the word rep really mean? Do I just stand here, right? And so the patient care coordinator is really about what I want my front office team to do, right? They are patient care coordinators. Their job is to manage your care, so that my physical therapists can actually treat you and help you to recover. And when those lines get blurred, or when the front office doesn't really understand their role, now what ends up happening is there's more frustration. The PTs step in where they shouldn't, which then makes them inefficient as providers. And there becomes this confusion, and that's where the reactiveness usually has to kick in instead of being proactive. Yeah,
you got it. And so, Dee, what would you say in your experiences? You've consulted and trained lots of different front office teams and patient care coordinators. That's a great tip for everybody there to look for 2021. Can you work with renaming your front office team to patient care coordinators? That empowers them a lot more, right?
Yeah.
But what would you say are the top 3 things you get a clinic to focus on to get a handle around cancellations?
Yeah. So there's actually so many more than top 3. But first of all, it's like I said, it's really having a program that's designed around prevention, which is what my program does, right? When we stopped worrying about reaction, we stopped focusing solely on how we're going to punish a patient. It actually empowered the team. And when I taught them really specific scripting, that if they follow the scripting, I have weaned out all the problems that you could possibly have with a patient around your missed visit policy, because the goal is to not have problems. It's to prevent them in the first place, right? So first of all, it's focusing on prevention and teaching your team how to script things properly around prevention, both prior to that happening and when someone calls to cancel. How do we prevent that, right? So that's a big part of what I do. The other is schedule control, right? Your front office team has to understand that their sole role to the practice and the patients is controlling that schedule. Okay, so we don't want 10 cancellations, same day cancellations to occur, because that just made the front office less efficient as well, because now they're scrambling to call around, find patients to take spots. And a great example is right now, this time of year, right? We'll take it right back to the beginning. People have that perception of busyness all year long, right?
Yeah.
And so if I'm trying to call somebody same day, what's their usual response? Oh, I'm so sorry. My whole day's planned out. I'm too busy. If you had called me yesterday, right? So again, it's back to prevention. If I can prevent the same day cancellation and I can get 24 hours or a day's notice, now I can actually help somebody else get in for care. And that's really what we're all about, right?
Yeah.
And then finally, the third thing that I focus a lot on around cancellations is changing the mindset across the practice, predominantly in the front office, right? But the front office team members, the patient care coordinators, they have a very specific and valuable role. And so by investing in that training and really, that's the thing I love the most, helping them to see themselves as someone who has a very, very valuable role to the practice and take control of that patient experience versus, well, I'm just here to answer the phones and put people on the schedule, because that's not going to help them to be stronger as beings, but it's also not helping the practice or the patients.
Yeah. So great advice there. So,
Thanks.
so help me kind of reiterate there. We got prevention, right?
Prevention. Say that again.
Prevention, and then you said schedule control, right?
Schedule control, right? Because that totally feeds into cancellations. And then changing their mindset, really working on training them up so they can see themselves as a strong and very valuable member of the practice.
Awesome. Yeah. So for everybody there, prevention, schedule control, and mindset. 3 keys there to definitely handle cancellations big time across your front desk there. So let's kind of switch gears here. We talked a lot about how we handle patients, making your treatments a priority around the holidays. How do we go around this conversation where people have more fear around COVID, wanting to quarantine so that they can be with family? What are some of the things that you have heard, and what are some of the ideas that you have to kind of tackle that difficult conversation?
Yeah, so COVID is now hitting Northern Virginia again. And so we hit this nice little lull and life was really good. And then all of a sudden we're hearing this again, and it's right around the holidays. So we're living with it just like everybody else out there right now. The first thing that we have to do is we have to provide a stable base for our staff, right? If as an owner, Mike or I freak out about all of this and we can't see through everything and really be able to be the guide, we have a problem, right? So if I am not a stable base for my staff, then my staff are more likely to vibrate, right? If I'm vibrating, they're vibrating, right? Because they're taking the signs from me as an owner. And this is all year long. It's just COVID has really brought this to life right now. So that's the first thing. We have to really help our staff to recognize that we're here to help. Right. And a big thing I focus on in my training is the real product of the practice is a patient who's helped. And really, if you look at physical therapy, for sure, the true measure of a patient who's helped is that successful discharge, full recovery.
Yeah.
That's a long time in between, right? So we have to keep our patients engaged. We have to stay engaged with them. We have to listen. Right. So if you're telling me you're really, really nervous, one of my big tips I like to give practice is use the words, I understand. Right. You're freaking out as a patient. I'm going to say to you, you know what, Neil, I totally understand. You're concerned about the effects of COVID on your family. Right. And then it's really some of the other things, that you want to look to do is have a set plan of how you're going to help your patients. I've provided free training on my Front Office Guru website where practice owners can go and look at it. And it talks about converting a patient to telehealth. And I know it's been really successful for practices because it's really about helping. True help is about getting them in for care. It's not about allowing them to fall off, right? So we have to have a plan for that. So we have to keep our staff all calm. We have to help our patients understand that everything we're doing is about keeping everybody safe, right? So Neil, if you notice that you're sick, I need you to call me as soon as you know you're sick. Please don't wait till the day of your appointment, and please don't come in sick, right? That is the patient care coordinator's responsibility to make them aware. Now, the PT should totally be backing OT. They should be backing the PCC up. It's not just on the PCC, but it really is about, there's the prevention, right?
Right.
I really don't want you to cancel same day, because when you do, you cause me a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't tell you that. So I'm going to put it on, hey, look, I'm sure you understand we're trying to keep infection out of our clinic. We want to keep all of our patients and staff healthy now and always. If you're sick, this is what I need from you. I need you to call me right away. As soon as you know you're sick, don't wait until the morning of your appointment. Don't wait to see if it's still there 3 days later. Call me right away, and then we can make the best decision for your care.
Yeah, that's a really, really good plan.
Yeah.
Really good advice there. I like what you're saying too, kind of helping the right language of I understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think after that, I understand, it becomes about reinforcing their safety there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen some clinics do amazing things. One of our clients, Ready Care Physical Therapy
Mm-hmm.
in New York. Vinod there he's just a fantastic marketer,
Yeah.
and he put together an amazing video that he shot in the clinic, just showing like, here's all the things that we are doing
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that you are safe, and there's like extremely no chance of you getting COVID in our clinic, right?
Yeah.
And being able to share something like that, maybe your patient care coordinator, if someone was a little nervous, they could email that to the patient, like, hey, here's what we're doing. Even a sheet that they could hand out to, kind of reinforcing like, hey, we're really a safe place here. We're really going above and beyond. So you kind of give that reassurance to the person. Again, it comes back to the proactiveness of it, right? If you're proactive and they feel really secure and comfortable, then no matter what they hear on the news, they know that you're being very careful in the clinic.
Yeah. I saw Vinod's video. That was impressive. But that's Vinod. Vinod's super impressive that way. And again, it's so easy to shoot something. It doesn't have to even be that professionally done. It can be the most simple thing. I've got my phone, I'm walking through the clinic, and I'm like, hey guys, I want to show you, this is what I'm doing. It can be, like you said, as simple as a piece of paper. It can be an explanation. Here's a great explanation that patient care coordinators can use. Let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing. And if you have a list, I always say, put a list by the front desk, something small, so it's got all their tips on it, so that they can quickly refer to it with a patient who's nervous. Hey, let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing for you right now. Right. And then there needs to be a plan. They need to see it. Right. So from the moment they're a new patient, from that very first phone call, they should understand, every patient, regardless of whether they say they're nervous or not, because who knows, that 24-hour news cycle, they could be totally fine today and not fine tomorrow. Being able to provide them, your patient care coordinators with a set process, your PTs with a set process. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing to keep you safe. When you come in, before you come in, we're going to have you fill out this form, whatever it is your practice is doing to keep your patients safe, right? And when you fill out this form, we're going to look through it. And if in any way you possibly have any area out that could be causing you to be infected with COVID, or obviously spread COVID, then this is how we handle it, right? And it has to be what's real to your practice and how you're handling it. Things in Georgia are very different than things in Virginia, are very different than things in New York, right now even.
Yeah.
And so it has to be real to your practice and your area. But even being able to show, hey, look, our gym is this big. Let's show you a picture of our gym online so you can see how huge it is. Or, hey, look at this is the woman that cuts my hair, like how they've spaced things out and how they have these amazing dividers between their wash stations, or how they take turns. You're sitting in that chair till she's done washing, and so being able to do that across all different, small businesses is really valid. But in private practice, because we're so in physical therapy in your face in certain situations, you really want to show it to all patients from day one, is basically where I was going, so that they, oh, wow, if she's telling me that, she's telling him that. And, oh, that person's been told that. And, oh, wait, if they're asking me these questions, or they're doing a temperature checks. Okay. And wow, I walk in that clinic, everybody's got a mask on, or, whatever. And so it's just how you present it as a team.
Right. And it even comes back to what you were saying before, we're trying to be very preventative, right? We're trying to work on the schedule control. And then we're also working on the mindset. So is your front office, have you trained your front office to have the right mindset of outcomes with the patient, right? So if the mindset is that I need to help this person get the best result possible and get back to health, the only way to do that is for them to be seen by their therapist. And I can't let them drop out, right? Because if they drop out, then no one's getting helped. And so if they work with that mindset, if the person has, different fears, they can be talking to them about, hey, we've got all these safety protocols. This is what we're doing to make sure that you're completely safe. You're going to be okay while you're here. For the few patients that don't take that they are so fearful, then do you have your telehealth options, right?
Exactly.
So it's like you got these options you need to have for your front office, but at the end of the day, it's the mindset of like, we got to get you in here and treated no matter what, right? And that's what stops the cancellations.
Yeah. And that's where it also sets the tone that the patient is going to, again, we resonate a tone. If I'm walking around in fear as a patient care coordinator or as a physical therapist, my patient is going to pick that up. Just like when you have a terrible patient in your clinic, all the patients that are there pick up on it, and that patient leaves and everybody kind of does this. Like, it's just relief, or you have a, difficult bad apple on your staff. It's the same thing. And so mindset is also about how you project things to your patients, how you show them, it's not about, oh, Neil, would you like to go to telehealth? It's okay. If you're sick, this is exactly what's going to happen. We are moving you to telehealth. It's not, would you like it? It's This is how we're going to do things so that we keep you on plan. And as soon as you're done with quarantine, you're coming back in the office. In fact, when Wyoming had their big hit like a month ago, they finally really started to ramp up. Whereas, we were all like, oh, we're on our second wave. They're like, this is our first. And I was working with Teton therapy, and that was a big thing they had to deal with, is some of their clinics were doing telehealth. And so being able to say to the patient, okay, Neil, so because you're going to be on quarantine for the next 14 days, this is what we're doing. And we're going to put you into this telehealth plan. We're going to keep you on this schedule, and we're going to keep you going and progressing. And that's what made the difference, both for cancellations and also drop-offs, because cancellations inevitably lead to drop-offs, right?
And patient outcomes, and patient outcomes equal happy patients telling nice things about you from a marketing perspective and a PR perspective. And so the more patients you can get through a complete plan of care that are very happy and successful, the more successful your clinic is going to be to attract in new patients, right? So it's a complete cycle there. So, this comes back again to Dee, where I think the practices that I see do the best when it comes to, their overall success are the ones that do the most with training. And I think the front office is an area that is so undertrained in so many clinics, but that's an easy fix, right? There are solutions out there to help your front office get the training that they need to know the right scripting, what to say, how to handle different situations, what are the processes and procedures and systems that need to be in place at the front desk that are proven and work. Then you're golden, right? You've got this most critical area of your practice, the front office, right? That controls so many different things, from how the patient arrives, the experience of the patients, the billing, the data, all that stuff that's entered. That a lot of that all happens at the front desk, right? So, Dee, would you just tell us a little bit about your training that you have available and how that helps clinic owners across the world?
Yeah. So, I started out one-on-one because I knew what worked in my practice, but I really wanted to be able to establish my program in other practices across the US and Canada and see what was needed and wanted, and how it was different from place to place. And then as I went through that, I recognized that, one-on-one coaching isn't for everybody. Not every practice owner can invest necessarily in that. And so what I spent the last year and a half, probably really 2 years, but really putting a lot of attention on and creating is an online program so that all practices have access to me in an online program where they can log in. Each team member can log in and do their training and follow along at their pace. Either the practice owner can set a specific pace or the team member can move along. I like to say the first time you go through it, you really should all stay on pace so that everybody's learning at the same things at the same time and applying it. The program focuses on several key areas. The first is the path that your patient takes through care, right? Every patient takes the same path. They have to actually see your marketing and promotion and go, I have a problem. right? So that's where practice promotions or other marketing to actions come in. And the patient's like, wow, I have a problem. And they have to pick up the phone and call you or email you or website contact or Facebook contact. Your front office has to recognize every potential patient, no matter what they say, and get them handled in a way so that they take that first step onto the path. And the first step onto the path is they actually are scheduled and arriving for an eval. So that's a big part of it. And then once we get them scheduled and arriving, we got to get them scheduled out and showing up for all of their visits, right? Those are the key factors that when your front office can master managing a patient in those areas, as a practice, you will see your stats go up, because that's really what you need, is somebody managing that, right? I never want them stuck in today. I want them looking at tomorrow and the future. So the program starts with the path, and then it moves into focusing on those key areas. So we have in level 2, we talk about, well, I guess in level 1, we talk about mindset, right? I need to change the mindset and help your staff to change their mindset to see that, number 1, they are in charge of patient care and making sure the patient gets in for care. And they have to establish themselves as an authority figure, right? They are not the person who answers the phone. They are the person who is in charge of coordinating the patient's care. And when they change their mindset, they then present that to the patient, and the patient is much more willing to work with them, respect them, follow along. Then we get into the big buttons, the ones that most owners identify first, which is schedule control and cancellations. So level 2 focuses a big part on schedule control and cancellations. My proven cancellation program that got us from 75% arrivals to 95, now it's like 95 to 97% arrivals. Yes, I will brag about that because I want you to have the exact same result. And most practices do. The ones that actually implement the scripting and the training and the system that I provide have massive jumps in their arrival rate. And that's what I want for all practices, because remember, if our patients are arriving, they're getting the care that they need. And when they get the care that they need, they're more likely to stay on until full recovery. And now we have a successful discharge, and that cycle starts back over again. They refer others. They're happy. We're happy. As a physical therapist, that's important to me, because my whole purpose was recovery for my patients. It wasn't showing up at work every day and fixing a shoulder or working on a shoulder. It was full recovery. And then finally, we hit level 3 for right now. There will be advanced training in the future, but level 3 focuses on really the beginning parts of the path. It talks about, okay, you're spending a lot of time or money on marketing and promoting what you do. Is your front office staff actually converting all of those leads that are coming in? Are they recognizing all the potential patients? Are they able to handle objections to time and money and insurance stuff? That's awful insurance
stuff, right? Yeah.
Stuff, And then in that new patient process, it's, okay, how do you establish yourself as a patient care coordinator with that new patient? How do you really set them on the right path? How do you talk to them about money? Because money's always a button for everybody at different levels. So how do we handle that? How do we recognize it? And then it also takes you right back around again to level 2, so that you see how really it all just flows together. So that's a big part of the program. It's all online. It's designed so that it's for do it yourself. You log in, follow along. There are practical questions that your staff answer as they go through the videos. I tried to keep the videos relatively short and sweet, so that here's a topic, here's some stuff to note about it. Okay, here's how to implement. There is implementation throughout the program, and there's also a Facebook group for those that choose to purchase levels 1 through 3 all at one time. You get special access to our private Facebook group, where I will provide other tips and tricks, and we can talk more in depth about what you're learning. And then for those practices that are just cannot live without me, because that's the thing that I love to do the most, I am going to be offering group coaching starting in 2021, so that not only can you be working through the program, but there'll be 2 sets right now of group coaching. The first one will be about arrival rate and your cancellations and mastering that process. The other will be about the new patient process and mastering the new patient. And you'll have your choice as we go through the year. The first one we're going to start with actually is cancellations. So that's a big button. So
that's awesome.
So yeah.
So thanks, Dee. I mean, just amazing resource there for your office, something that's really never been there before, but it is now, right? So definitely check out fixyourfrontdesk.com and check it out, because there's a lot of cool stuff there. And then you'll be able to get access for, I think it's up to like a total of 5 or 6 of your team, right? Can get trained through there and go through their own courses. So awesome stuff on that. So Dee, thank you so much for all this awesome tips today around handling cancellations around the holidays and how do you handle patients with COVID concerns. So fantastic tips for our viewers here. Thank you so much. Don't forget to check out fixyourfrontdesk.com and Dee Bills. And we look forward to bringing you some more front desk tips in the future with Dee.
Thanks, Neil. Good luck, and good luck, everybody. I hope to see you part of my family.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, Dee. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks again for joining us today. Be sure to check out practicepromotions.net/power. There, listeners can download over 9 checklists and free resources made to coach you through simple, proven marketing actions to increase new patients. So check it out today. That's practicepromotions.net/power, and I'll see you next time.